Salutations, everybody. It is Matty here today. Happy Monday. Hope all of you had a fantastic weekend. Got some nice R&R in. Today, we're starting off our week in the best way imaginable. We're talking about Bethesda news. Always love getting the Bethesda tidbits together and talking about them with all of you. So, of course, we've been paying close attention to QuakeCon, as that's where many of us were anticipating a number of Bethesda news bits to come out, such as a new Starfield trailer or information on it, perhaps, if speculation was to be correct, something to do with the Fallout franchise. And while Fallout will be there, it's in a way that I don't think many of us were really hoping to see it present in. But we're also going to be talking about classic games from Bethesda, very old published games from Bethesda that are returning, and I found this quite interesting. Last but certainly not least, we're going to be talking about Fallout, specifically the TV show, and more leaks that have hit the show. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, if you're new here, you're into Bethesda news and information, consider subscribing. Let's start off with QuakeCon. This is our number one story and the one I was really itching to talk about because I know myself and the community have really been beating the drum that we should be keeping an eye on QuakeCon. Bethesda historically has shown content off at QuakeCon for big upcoming games, and they have a couple of rounds in the chamber right now. You have Redfall, you have Starfield, you have Fallout 76 Expeditions. There's been rumors and speculation for a while now about Fallout remasters or remakes of some kind. There's Elder Scrolls Online. There's just so much they can talk about on this platform, and over the years, QuakeCon has really developed into a separate place where Bethesda can make some announcements. Heck, last year at QuakeCon, Bethesda announced Skyrim Anniversary Edition, which was a pretty big deal. While it was yet another rendition of Skyrim, it did add a ton of new content to the game through the Creation Club, and it was a new way to play the game, which I thought was pretty awesome. So this is a place that's no stranger to announcements, and while I'm sure there will be some, there are some, I would say, shocking revelations about the overall schedule that Bethesda has revealed, and we're going to take a look at right now. For starters, I was kind of surprised that Redfall only gets about half an hour. Redfall is likely the game that's going to come out first from Bethesda. If you're looking at Starfield and Redfall, I think it's very clear Redfall is up first. So I thought this would get a much bigger talk, like about an hour, double the length of what it's getting right now, to talk about all things Redfall, likely show off some more gameplay, another trailer perhaps, and talk about the development of the game, where it's at, how they're feeling about things. That may seem a little overkill, but look at what Arcane has done since Redfall was revealed at the Xbox Bethesda showcase. They have been gabbing quite a bit about this game. Long interviews with IGN, tons of video interviews, tons of text interviews. So to me personally, I felt like this was a slam dunk to be a game that had a heavy presence at QuakeCon. Now, there could be a decent amount shown within this half hour, but here they're talking about bringing it to life. So it is going to be a keynote of sorts where I do think this talk could have been extended, but that may very well be nitpicking. What you may recognize here on the schedule is that you're not going to see any mentioning of Todd Howard, Bethesda Game Studios, Starfield, none of that stuff. That doesn't mean suddenly it's going to be a bad show. I quite frankly never tune in fully to QuakeCon anyway. I keep an eye out just for announcements. But when you see no Todd, you see no Starfield, obviously that means we're not going to see anything for that game here at QuakeCon. This does present an interesting set of circumstances for Bethesda Game Studios because Starfield does need to be marketed a bit differently, as we've seen so far, for this game to get out there. It's not Fallout, it's not Elder Scrolls. They can't lay back on previously established brands and marketing that's already been done for them and just go, we're making the next entry the thing you already know about. Starfield is a new thing, so they have to be out there talking about it more. Now, of course, there is Gamescom, which Xbox will be at right next to QuakeCon. It is possible that Bethesda Game Studios is there instead with Starfield. I'm personally not holding my breath because to me, I felt QuakeCon made the most sense. Bethesda Game Studios had shown off Fallout 4 at QuakeCon. Although it was behind closed doors, there was still a presentation there. Granted, a bit of a different situation. That game was ready to go in November, where obviously we now know Starfield was not ready to go in November. But no mentioning whatsoever of Starfield or Todd Howard, so I wouldn't expect any information on that. Now, the only set of information we have on Fallout here is for Fallout 76, they say Expeditions and Beyond. Now, this could mean that there is more happening with the Fallout franchise, but since it's Fallout 76 oriented, I imagine they don't want to have it, I would say, within the stratosphere of 76. So if you're going to announce like we speculated, a Fallout 3 in New Vegas port or a remaster package, something along those lines, or you're going to bring Fallout 1 and 2 to modern consoles. Let's say one of these things is going to happen here. To me, I don't think you want to put it near 76 because while it is a product that's improved over the years and has gained its own player base, I still view it as a feeble product that if it's in the vicinity of any brand new Fallout content, I think you could lead to killing that game off. And there's a reason Bethesda's still putting content into it and supporting it. It's because, well, it makes them money. So they don't want to put a killing blow into a sustainable, for them at least, live service game. So I don't really expect too much here, but what's ultimately more surprising is no mention of like the Fallout TV show or talks on that, because this year is an anniversary, a very special anniversary for the Fallout franchise, the 25th anniversary. So to me, it would make a whole lot of sense for Bethesda to sit down and sort of have this Fallout bash, something along the lines of, here's Expeditions, here's a sneak preview at the TV show, and maybe here's something in the wheelhouse that's coming shortly to the Fallout franchise. Maybe it's just a port of 1 and 2 to consoles. Maybe it's more readily available on PCs. I don't know. But point being is that I could see that trifecta being a pretty decent announcement for an anniversary celebration. I would be certainly pleased with that. But it looks like they're just focusing on Fallout 76 here. So all in all, from top to bottom, with a short window for Redfall, not much going on with Fallout, no mention of Todd Howard or, of course, Starfield. It's not looking like anything here is going to happen that many of you are looking for. I'm sure there will still be great content, but nothing crazy. You may be wondering about the keynote introduction to the beginning where it says welcome to QuakeCon. This will be hosted by id though, so there's a possibility that we hear more from id on what they're working on next. I could see that being a possibility. That could be a really big deal and very exciting. But otherwise, when it comes to Bethesda Game Studios and sort of the big current game that we know from them, as well as potential future projects, like I said, Fallout ports, I'm not expecting too much here now. But if you want a little bit of optimism, you could keep your eye on Gamescom, which is right around the same time as QuakeCon. I thought if Xbox were smart here, which I imagine this would have been the strategy if there was stuff to show, they would bring the Bethesda content to QuakeCon, let them have their own show, and then Xbox would get their current stable of exclusives, any updates for them, and bring it to their Gamescom show. You also have to keep in mind that Jeff Keighley has his own show happening here for opening night live. So there's a lot of places where announcements can happen within a week here. So don't give up too much hope yet, but yeah, a couple of shocking turnarounds here on what Bethesda is going to be focusing on at QuakeCon. We'll see what happens when all of the showcases are done. With that, we move on to our next story here. This one I thought was actually really cool. So Bethesda's actually bringing back some classic games. The reason they're bringing back these classic games is they're planning on selling them on the Microsoft storefront. But if you're on the Xbox Insider program on PC, you're able to test a number of titles. These games being the likes of Hexen, Heretic Shadow of the Serpent Riders, as well as Death Kings of the Dark Citadel, which I believe these are expansions for Hexen. There's also Elder Scrolls Arena and Quake Champions. The reason I really thought this was interesting is because of the odd trifecta that's happening here prior to Activision being brought into the fold. So here's a little bit of a history lesson to those of you who don't know much about Hexen here, but it's funny how everything's kind of coming full circle. So Hexen was actually a game that was developed on the Doom engine, and it was published by id Software, obviously a Bethesda-owned company now. However, they were developed by Raven Software, which is now an Activision-owned company. And Activision acquired the rights to these games when they purchased Raven in 1997. And so I thought this was fascinating that we're sort of seeing a commingling of Xbox, Bethesda, and Activision together, and I hope this is only the beginning. You know, of course, all of us have our dream announcements and collaborations. The most common one I think I hear is something to do with the Halo franchise and id. And I'm not really holding my breath for that one, but man, would that be amazing. But I'm hoping to see more of this, right? More of resurrecting the past. Because a lot of people don't like Activision. I'm right there with you. Activision sucks. But as a gamer, just taking that slice into the equation, I have to say that Activision was a really good publisher back then. They had a number of amazing Marvel titles, Tony Hawk, the list goes on. And so if we could keep those in the wheelhouse, somehow getting them to Game Pass. Prototype as well. Love Prototype. I mean, Singularity. There's so many games that came out of Activision. It's the same thing with EA. It's like, yeah, they suck now, but back in the heyday, they used to publish some gems. So I'd love to see this continued focus on resurfacing old classic titles, keeping them alive for a modern audience. You all know how I feel about game preservation, but all in all, I thought this was really cool, and if you're an Xbox insider on PC, you can try these out before they are available for sale on the Microsoft storefront. Last but not least, we're going to be talking about the Fallout TV show. This is something we've been closely tracking here on the channel with each and every leak. One of our bits of speculation, just based off how the fine gentleman looked, was Walton Goggins being a ghoul, and he is now confirmed through a photograph. As you can see here, he's on set with Ghoul in the back. So that is his role in the show, as many of us expected, which comes as no surprise whatsoever. Again, I mean this with all due respect, but just looking at him, I think, oh, he's got a lot of Herald energy. I'm about this. But beyond that, there were a lot of different set pieces that had leaked, costumes that had leaked, to give us a good look at the authenticity of this show so far. When you look at the vault suit here, which we have, looks pretty good to me. You can actually see some of the interiors for vaults looking pretty sharp here. The gigantic power armor, you love to see how big it is, because again, I always talk about, while I love Fallout 3 New Vegas, the power armor there was very small, was not lore friendly, if you will. More contraptions all in the dressing set. Here we can see a shoot being done where we see various lab coats being worn and someone underneath a sheet on a lab table. I imagine this is Vault Tech, so we're going to see their involvement in some way, shape, or form. Someone caught a photo of a German Shepherd on set, so it's very well possible that dog meat will be in the show. That's really exciting. There's a gentleman here in all black, but what he's holding is a pretty nice looking laser rifle. And all in all, I'm liking what I'm seeing here. The reason I'm really pumping this part of the show up is, well, I ended up really liking The Witcher over on Netflix. I remember prior to that show's reveal, and I'm not saying that Fallout will be immune to this. We have yet to see like an official trailer of everything, but I distinctly remember when I saw The Witcher for the first time, the trash bag, and I'm not saying that as an insult, but literally it looked like a trash bag, Nilfgaardian armor. It looked horrendous. Some of these shows really cut corners with the budgets for the costumes. That's arguably right next to the representation of characters with the right casting calls in the show. Probably the most important thing is making sure you have the whole aesthetic, the look and feel from the game just right for your show. And right now, granted, a lot of these are like bird's eye view pictures. We're not right up close, intimate, seeing every little detail in it. But right now, I am liking what I'm seeing. I'm warming up to it. Obviously, I have my concerns with the story. You've heard my bit of speculation based off the actors and actresses that have been casted, how I think this may be a somewhat retelling of Fallout 4 at this moment in time. I also have some other theories that I'll share as we get closer to the show being revealed. But all in all, I'm liking what I'm seeing costume-wise, set-wise, looking pretty good thus far, especially that super duper mark. So that's all of the Bethesda news we have today. A fine way to start the week. What do you think of everything I had to share in this video? Please do fire away in the comments down below. I'm excited to see your thoughts on all things QuakeCon, classic games, and Fallout TV show. With that, I will catch all of you in the next video. Be sure to follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram. Those links are in the description down below. And a big thank you to all the patrons, all the members who continue to support the hell out of the content here. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.